Welcome to another episode of the AI Math Podcast, where superintendents reimagine education in the age of AI. I'm Jae Kim. I'm a math teacher, an AI practitioner, and co-founder of Sameta. My guest today has spent over 30 years shaping California public schools and now shapes the leaders who lead them. Dr. Fal Asrani is the program administrator for the AASA USC Urban Superintendent Academy and the USC School Leadership Academy at USC Rossier, one of the most prestigious superintendent preparation programs in the country, with more than 200 graduates leading districts across the nation. Before that, she served as superintendent of Marysville Joint Unified School District, a TK through 12 district of 11,000 students across 24 campuses just outside of Sacramento. She's known as an unapologetic advocate for all students and ethical leadership. Dr. Fal Asrani, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you today?
Good, good, good. Well, I know that you are jam packed with so many things going on today. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to just meet and connect and get on this podcast. And I know I shared a lot about what you do. Is there anything particular that you want to highlight before we go into some of the questions that I've prepared?
I think I'm excited to jump right in and see what you have for me today.
Perfect. Well, I want to touch on maybe three things today. The first thing is a bit of your journey and what led you to become a superintendent and now leading other superintendents and teaching them and guiding them. And I think that's my number one question, or the first question, which is your journey. And the second question is, as you are shaping the superintendent of today, what are some things that you find to be the most important things that every superintendent should know and should be practicing? That's the second one. And the third one is just AI. And as you're leading superintendents and guiding them, what do you see AI shaping just superintendents and their role as they move into the future of AI and education? So those are the three things that I want to tackle. Maybe we could start off with the journey piece. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Dr. Falsrani.
Thank you. Well, the journey has been pretty exciting. I immigrated to the United States back in 89. And so I didn't really have any understanding of the American system, especially the TK 12 system, because I came here to study law. And I became a teacher consciously because I had seen the special education programs here in the United States, a program that wasn't really available in India when I was growing up, or even when I was a mature adult. And it just really something just clicked me, and I begged the principal at that time to give me a chance to be a special ed teacher, and he did. But what really shaped my decision to stay as a special ed teacher was this young boy called, I'll just name him because I'm not going to take his last name. His name was Michael. And Michael suffered from serious uh, um, uh, physical needs, and he had a very hard time speaking. And one day we were doing arts at the end of the class, and uh, I asked him. In India and in England, we very often use the word gum in place of glue. And so I remember asking, it was a very special needs class, what now we call severe to profound. And he looked at me and, in his way, stated to me, Dr. Fall, Mrs. A, because I wasn't a doctor then, Mrs. A, you're in America now. We call it glue. And that has been that one situation that convinced me that I was in the right place, because I laughed till I cried, because even the adults in the room didn't understand what he had just said. A student who had been put into a special education program for his physical needs had a mind that was able to relate that the word gum is not part of the American vocabulary, and to think that sometimes we write people off without really taking the time to know them. And that became, I think, my guiding principle, that every child, no matter who they are, have the potential, that it's up to us adults to identify and then grow. Because after that, Michael I put him into a complete different um, work schedule, where he started writing for me. And I wanted to know what you're thinking, because he wasn't able to articulate. But his mind was alive and interesting, and it was so rich with thoughts that in all that time, I don't think anybody had ever had the opportunity to know about. So that was when I became a teacher. And then after that, of course, I spent the next 30 years or so being an administrator at all levels, site
Mm.
and district. And the journey has been tremendously engaging and, for me, very fulfilling, because I wake up every morning thinking, like Michael, if there's one child or one adult I can support, I have done my job for the day. And I think that's what drives me to say unethical and unapologetic, because to do that, I've had to really understand who I am. And for me, children will always come first. And that is what I'm unapologetic about. Is when I was in schools, when I say principals now and superintendents now, I always tell them the toughest decisions are always the right decisions if it's impacting a child or children. And if you're doing it for them, it is a right decision. Um, Unfortunately, sometimes in our jobs, adult situations take away the beauty of what's happening with children. But that's okay. That's what this profession is about. And so for me, ethical leadership goes hand in hand with unapologetic, because you're doing what is right. You're doing those actions, or you're making those statements, or you're making, making sure the decisions are always honest, upright, and uh, uh, keeping the district, keeping our staff, keeping the community rich with what can go on in education. And so for me, those are the principles that drove me. So I think I answered the first question. Your second question was about developing superintendents, and I touched on that. I don't teach them classes, but I
And
interact with them.
sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Fal Asrani. Is it okay if I just ask a follow-up question before we move on to the
Of course,
superintendent piece?
of
Okay.
course, of course.
Well, first of all, I just love what you share about Michael and the gum story. And I think that's one of the most important, I guess, skills or discernment that I think educators need is the ability to see something that maybe somebody might see as like, oh, like that's nothing. But for educators to see that, it's like, no, that was something. And there was a gift and intellect and a skill that you demonstrated there that shows that you understand. And so it's bringing out the best in students. And so I love that. That's how it sparked your heart and passion for education. And like you said about the unapologetic and ethical, I think at the end of the day, training superintendents or administrators, school administrators, it all comes down to we're training them so that we can serve our students the best. So I love that. And I also want to touch a little bit upon your heritage as well, because I know that you've mentioned about being Indian American and just some of the challenges. I know you were the first Indian American to lead a large district in the states. And so, tell me a little bit more about that, because I think that's a huge story and it's something to be highlighted.
Well, yeah, that's true, because I did some Google search and I found that there was a lady before me in New York that was Indian heritage and ran a district of about 4,500 students. And then I remember when I became the superintendent, some newspaper somewhere was talking to me about it. I don't even remember what the article was, or if it was in a document. Or I don't even remember. I've never wanted to be. That's something else I developed. Was my leadership style was always from behind, highlighting people. I like to people to see what people can do. It's not about what I can do. A superintendent has to understand their job and their commitment is to bring out the best in others, is to make sure that it's all about putting the focus on children and staff and other administrators and the community who's always coming together to make the school district what it can be. And I think that's where I spent a lot of my time. But when I came here in education and became a superintendent, I realized that it was a big torch I was carrying for immigrant Indians, that I was the first Indian immigrant superintendent in the entire United States of a large, semi-large school district. And then very quickly, I was followed by another superintendent, Morgan Hill, Dr. Munshi, who was also Indian. And so I found that between us and others who I'm sure are following now, the Indian female superintendents and immigrant superintendents are powerful because we bring our story, we bring our journey, we bring a different understanding of school systems that shaped who we are, right? When we studied in India. So I think that's something that has carried with me. And yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm definitely very proud of it. My family is very proud of it. But it is important to talk to immigrants, minority women of color, to say that it is a worthy profession. Even now, there's 30% of women who are superintendents, and I think the number might have gone up a little bit to 40 something across the nation. But if you look closely, it's usually women of color, and they're not Indian women. They're not Asian superintendents. So I would like to hope, and I hope that many other women are looking at this and saying, yes, we can do it too. We can get there. So that's important because Asian Indians are a large population in our schools. And if you also noticed, I speak with my accent, which is what I inherited from my birth. I proudly talk with that accent because I think it's important for people to see that as leaders, we are who we authentically are. And I wasn't born in America. I don't have an American accent, so I'm not going to speak in an American accent, right? And I think that's what's important, is to respect that, the diversity of our leadership. And I say that to everybody: be yourself. Be the person you are when nobody is looking. Be honest, be upright, be moral, and just be your authentic self.
I love that. And I think just by virtue of your being Indian American and embracing your identity and heritage and that and leading from that place, I think is so powerful just in and of itself. And the reason why I share that is because one of my mentors, Dr. Jeff Kim, he's the president of the Irvine Unified School District board member. And and just him being Korean American and holding a position of leadership and seeing it's like, oh, like somebody who came from a very similar background can do and accomplish and have such good impact. And that inspires me, right? And so I can totally see just your being you, right? And unapologetically just being you, just being inspiring. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
It if you want to add something else, we can, and we can move on to the second question, just about the superintendents. And as I
Okay.
know that you're training many superintendents, and the world is changing so fast with AI and just, I mean, the the jobs that's happening right now, right? And so preparing for students in this new in the age of AI, like what does that look like? And so I'm so curious as to what you are seeing as the most important things as you are shaping superintendents for the next generation.
And that's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking that. Uh, I was humbled when I was given this opportunity to work with future superintendents. And even though I don't teach them directly, I interact with them all the time. In other words, I run the program. I am with them. They'll call me for some guidance. Sometimes we'll do some interview preps um, and check resumes and just get to know each other. I think what's important is what I tell them is important is at this time, our students are really going to struggle understanding what the jobs are going to be when they graduate. It's happening right now. I was watching a show yesterday where college students are coming out and there are no jobs that they thought they wanted to prepare for because many companies have already switched some of those jobs for AI into AI. And it's a scary thought. It's a frightening thought because we're not prepared. We've been hearing about it. We've been watching the driverless cars with Waymo and all that going through. And we know that we enjoy those perks, but we haven't really been thinking about, or maybe we have. But I can honestly tell you, education and school districts haven't really pivoted to that. In fact, it's a very difficult conversation to have with our teaching staff because they too are struggling with what would that mean? Does it mean that students are submitting work that's AI generated? What could that look like? And in a brief time that I was there when the conversations were happening, I transitioned to a different conversation, which is what I tell some of my superintendent friends, some of my upcoming members who are going to be principals in the other program, is embrace AI so that you understand the positives of using it. For example, in the classroom, teachers, one of the things we do see, and I think it's just being honest, so I'll just be honest. Sometimes there are some lesson plans that haven't changed for decades. It's the same teacher both my children had. What my daughter learned, my son learned the same thing. And there's a good 5-6 years between the two of them. Well, that's a sacrilege because it should change because situations are changing, student talents are changing, assignments should change. We should not have the same assignment which was done 5-6 years ago and sometimes many, many years ago. So when I was talking about this with my teams, I would tell them, let's train our teachers to use AI to change the lesson plans. Make it exciting. Give some idea of what a student work product could be. There's so many creative ways to generate that. Create your lesson plan, throw it into a ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT to redo that with alternative assignments. It'll take ChatGPT 2 minutes to do what would take you hours to do. Once you know what the activity is, spend time to make that activity relevant to the students today. I think AI has a very powerful tool in teaching and learning. I think it can shape our classrooms to be exciting. It can tell our teachers to try new ways of teaching, new ways of ensuring students are learning. And that's at the ground root level. If we could even start there, I think we're embracing what's coming. The other part that I think in fact, I know that many of our students are using, and I encourage them to use, is when you write something, make sure it's authentic and it's your own thoughts and your own product. Then give it into AI to get it crisp and clear, and then check and make sure that it's not become automated learning. Like it's not sounding like Chat GPT has a particular way of writing. Make it your voice, but watch how beautifully words have been reshaped. It's become more concise, more clean, because you need to put your best work forward. And sometimes that has really gone down very well with adults when they're writing their resumes or they're writing their cover letters, for me to tell them, write your thoughts in and let AI clean it up for you. Those are the basic usages for adults right now, instead of just going, I'm not going to look at AI. Don't go there. Curriculum wise, as well as personally, it's got a place in our lives right now. I use it all the time as a lesson planning or anything. It helps. One of the things, however, I tell our superintendents and our future leaders is embrace the changes. I just spoke to a principal who reached out to me and said, Dr. Fal, I want your advice. I want to do an AI certification. What do you think? I said, power to you. Do it. The more we learn what we don't know, the better we are equipped to go into the unknown, because now we know a little bit about what to learn, what not to learn, how to use it and how to not. And I'm glad to see some principals are stepping up and doing that. It's here, but what's concerning me most is apart from its usage, the way I mentioned at the very grassroots level, just to get comfortable, because you know that more than I do, adults are the hardest group to change, right? Adults will put up a fight just to move a furniture from left to the right of the room. So it is for them, it's our teachers, our administrators are absolutely, I'm sure, in a panic mode. So many districts are not even tackling it. Um, and so I would think that more entrepreneurs like you are the ones we need in every district to tell us just the basics of AI and then scale up our learning and usage. But where I think I need to go, and I'm reading a lot on it, and I'm hoping that our superintendents are reading as well. So I have a monthly newsletter and I add articles in it. And this week I'll add something on AI. I did something last week on the latest policies and such. But um, I've been telling them that, let's look at the jobs and the job market for these very students you're teaching now. If you remember about 10 years ago, oh, I'd say more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, career technical education, CTE, was a buzzword, and rightly so. All of us started providing classes with career technical education, fantastic courses, and it really shaped a lot of our students thinking that, oh yeah, I want to go into engineering, oh yes, I want to go into manufacturing, oh yes, I want to go into biosciences, into nursing. And we had so many, and we have so many certified career technical education courses across. Now I want to see how many of those courses go into AI mode, um, and bring some of those AI automated careers into that CTE, in the CTE fold. I haven't heard of any, I haven't seen any. I don't know very many districts that are doing any kind of AI courses, but that's something we need to talk about. And we need to talk about quickly because it's here already, quickly. And that's another thing about education, I think that I used to not really enjoy at all. It's not in my personality. So I struggled and I ran up into that all the time. Is in education, you can talk about something until it's dead in the water. And we keep talking about something and we don't take action quick enough. But unfortunately, that means we keep graduating groups and groups of students from high school who are being maybe not prepared for actually what is coming out. Even though we all say preparing for college and careers, it is not so much the skills, it's a mindset that I'm going into a world today where I might have a high school degree and a college degree, but this might become useless in a matter of. So my mindset of being able to pivot with change is what education needs to change, needs to educate. But the adults in the system, including myself, we are always so politics and so policy driven that it takes us a long time to make any changes. So that's a concern, and that's something that when I have the opportunity for people, when they come to me and say, Dr. Fall, what are some of the things I should be talking about? Make sure you talk about being an innovative leader and know what that means. By using the word innovative leader doesn't mean anything unless you can show through action you've done that. You've tried things, even if you failed, but you tried something different so that our children can experience the changes that are coming and can be prepared for new ways of looking at their education. So those are some of the things I talk about with superintendents and our future principals. Um, and I think I'm kind of curious to see where education is going to go now. We all are stuck in politics and federal policies and such like that. But for me, it's more about the changes that are happening in the job market and our commitment that our students, who's a future task force, is ready for those jobs. And so, what would that look like? And that seems to be an issue that I think I grapple with a lot now.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing. I mean, you hit upon so many good points like teachers and their usage of AI to refine writing and still maintaining voice and lesson planning. And yeah, lesson plans should change from 6 years ago and maybe even year to year. It has to look very differently because the problems that we face as a country and as a world is very different from the problems that we faced 6 years ago. And so, especially now with AI. And I love what you shared about CTE pathways and AI. Because CTE pathways, like for example, software engineering, I would say, is one of the industries that has been impacted by AI in one of the biggest ways. And so now, what does software engineering look like? And then when we look into, I don't know, like videography or graphic design, if you look at CDance, which is a new video generator AI. I mean, it is so good. So what does that mean now? And so I think CTE pathways, which I think are incredible, I think need to now wrestle with AI and what does it look like to automate the parts that can be automated and what needs to stay human. And so my last
What?
question for you, well,
Sorry, I wanted to add
no, go
something.
for it.
When we talk about AI, we've been definitely working on the front side of AI, which is the coding and robotics, right? One of the things that I'm really proud of is that we worked with UC Davis at Marysville, and we brought coding and robotics across our K-12 campuses. It started as early as kindergarten students coding, after school programs, before school programs, in the classroom, and then coding, mathematics with coding.
Wow.
And we brought those courses in because, and I hope they're continuing, but the reason we brought it in, and I really was passionate about that with a group of teachers, is because we felt that that's where the skills are to prepare for the world of AI, right? The coding and the
Mm,
robotics.
yeah.
And I bring that, and I should have added that all CTE pathways in every school should actually have coding and robotics as a foundational course. Now,
Mm,
quickly before every student goes any further, because that's what is going to drive the future manufacturing, the future engineering, the future medical, and it's driving it now, but that's what is going to be it. So why not get the skills into our students now on coding and robotics? Years ago, I remember somebody said to me, Fal, what do you think about coding? And I said, it's a second foreign language. It's a foreign language every student should learn. And I would rather they do coding and robotics than French. If that's where the master schedule, pushes a child to make a choice, because French can get them into a very exciting place. But now we have AI that's translating. So there goes a French speaking job right there. But if that student could learn coding and robotics, I'm sure they could do wonderful things. And I know this new generation is so creative, and that's what I was reading the other day, that this new 20 something, you guys, are a whole different breed of its own. You create things that are really not, has never been done by people before you.
What are the unwavering principles that makes a good superintendent? So what I'm trying to say is our world is so transient and so many things are changing. And yet there are certain things I would imagine that don't change. Like for example, what you really stand on is ethical leadership. And so those things, whether AI exists or not, still remains the same and still holds true. So maybe if you could just choose one thing, what is that one thing that is unwavering, that doesn't change, that grounds a superintendent to be the best superintendent they can be?
Love what you do. And that includes loving the children and the staff that you chose to serve. I think the superintendency is often viewed as a political position, the CEO of a large company, so to speak. 11,000 students, 25,000 parents, a whole community, 600 plus staff, budget up in the millions. But at the end of the day, you're only there for the time that you've been chosen to be, or you decide to be, so that you can make a difference in the lives of the students and the adults that you serve. And for me, it was always about knowing that no matter how tough it got, you are there to absorb that pain, absorb that criticism, absorb that angst, because you are the person who's chosen to be there to do something positive. And it's better to make mistakes than not to have done anything at all. So to me, it is an uncompromising belief in your students and your staff that you've chosen to serve, which is I think, the foundation of what a superintendent should be. I mean, you'll hear a lot of things about make it the best district it can be. Yeah, that's all follows when you have an unconditional belief that you are there to serve.
I love
It'll
that.
automatically become a good place. Now, it may not be a good place while you are there, but some of the good things that you have done together with your people and supported them to do is going to take it to the next level, whether you see it or not, it's happening. And so for me, that is what drove me. It was never the position, it was never the money, it was never the ego. It was just a whoops, I get a chance to shape something here. I get a chance to make a difference. For example, this AI coding, right? Now it's in the system. And I'm very proud of that, that we've trained so many teachers and so many students to understand the importance of coding and robotics, to prepare them for the world that's coming. So those are the kind of things that I think a superintendent should be prepared for. Courage, morality, ethical, those are very important. I mean, everybody's a human being, so everybody falls. We all fall at some time, but we should never fall on our moralities or ethics, because we are being watched by students and staff and parents and community. Hold ourselves high to the highest standard. Even when things get very tough, no negativity should come out of you, because you are there, as I said, to absorb the angst, the frustration of workers, but you have chosen to serve. And when you serve, you don't get to serve on a good day. You serve even when things are not going well. You just serve. And so for me, that is a essence of what a superintendency is.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think when people do see superintendents, they can see a CEO, multi-million dollar budget, position of power. And ultimately, though, it reminds me of what the uncle of Spider-Man said. So, with great power comes great responsibility. It really is a place to serve and not losing sight of that. That's awesome. And as we end this podcast, any last words of hope and encouragement to superintendents, to our listeners before we end?
Well, I always tell our superintendents that this is a time when things are very difficult, but they will find a way, like we've always done, if we work together with our community for the success of every child under our care. And politics has a place, and unfortunately, it always plays out in the education system. It's got no place for politics, but it always becomes the one place where it comes in and impacts, because we look after children and adults, they're the parents, so they will always be there, and therefore their politics or their way of thinking is brought into the school system. I'm really proud of our future superintendents, our current superintendents, our leaders, because I know that the journey is not easy. With longevity comes some level of consistency, and I urge them to stay in the job, do what they're doing together with their teams, their teachers, their classified staff, the community, and their parents, so that everybody can understand that the focus, the spotlight, is always the student. Don't
Absolutely.
get into a situation where the spotlight is away from the students. That's
Mm.
what we're there for.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would tell all superintendents. And I know that they know that. So I'm preaching to the choir. But if ever something happens that is difficult, the one question I always ask myself, did this help a student? And if my answer was yep, I'm like, it's a tough call, but I'm going to stand by it.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope will happen in education, that us leaders in school districts will understand that we just can't sit in a job. We have to keep moving and make sure our districts and our students' learning and success of our future citizens is a priority every single day.
So good. Yeah. Put the highlight and the spotlight on the students and keep our eyes focused on serving them. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Fal Asrani, for your time. I appreciate it. I know you got lots of things going on today, so you got this. And everyone who's listening, thank you for listening to another episode of the AI Math Guy podcast. I hope you guys have an incredible rest of your day, and I'll see you guys all in the next episode. Bye bye.